Good morning, dear students. Today we are going to talk about Ramayana. Ramayana is supposed to be composed by Valmiki, and Valmiki is also considered as the Adi Kavi. Why he is called the Adi Kavi? Because it is one of the ancient epics that was written after the Vedas. Of course, there is any shlok or any such metrical composition which has been composed. Although the Vedas are not stories, but Ramayana narrates the story of the protagonist Ram. And we all are well familiar with the story of Ram and the abduction of Sita by the king of Lanka called Ravan, and how Ram rescues Sita back, and the contribution of Hanuman and the beloved brother Lakshman. So this is the general narrative of Ramayana, which is taught or is the breath of each and every individual household in India. Because like in Ramcharitmanas, which has become very much more popular than the Ramayana version, Ramcharitmanas, which has been written by Tulsidas, so that is considered or is the reverend book in each and every human household in India. So because Ram is generally seen as an avatar of Vishnu. So here in this new NEP 2020 and CBCS system, in many courses Ramayana has been introduced. In Bihar University also, the book 1 of Ramayana has been introduced, whereas in various different universities several other books or episodes have been introduced. So today I am going to give a brief synopsis or a brief overview of what is there in Ramayana and what is that we are going to study. So Ramayana is generally considered that it was written around 6th or 7th century BC, but later on many of the historians also say that no, it has been written even long back, that is the 3rd century BC around. And as we mentioned that Valmiki is considered as the writer of Ramayana, and it is called the Adi Kavi. So it is one of the ancient epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, and the first shlok that uttered out of Valmiki's mouth is considered to be from where the starting of Ramayana took place. So that first shlok was when he saw two crane birds, and one of them were shot by a hunter. And in Hindi or in Sanskrit basically, because Ramayana, ancient Ramayana was written initially in Sanskrit, so it was mentioned as the crotch birds. So these crotch or the crane birds, one of the mates were killed while mating, while they were playing and enjoying, and one of them is killed by the hunter, and this touches Valmiki very much, and he just out of sudden, spontaneously, just like Wordsworth says that poetry is spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. So spontaneously some words come out of his mouth. That is about the pathos or the plight of the mate of the crotch bird or the crane bird which has been killed. And when this word comes out of his mouth, when this shlok comes out of his mouth, it is considered to be the first shlok of Sanskrit. And from there Brahma comes and tells him that you have to proceed on. Brahma, the creator of this whole world as observed in Hindu mythology. So he comes and tells him that you have to now proceed on with this framing of poetry, and for that you have got the technique now, you know how to compose a shlok now. So now you are going to write about the worthiness of Ram and his story. In short, Brahma also narrates him the story of Ram and tells him to now continue with the story in detail. And then the first shlok that uttered out of his mouth, it is of course in Sanskrit, but I am telling you the English version of it. It's like this: you will find no rest for the long years of eternity, for you killed a bird in love and unsuspecting. So when the two crotch birds were mating, at that time the hunter killed one of them. So that's the first words that come out of Valmiki's mouth when he sees or witnesses this event. And then we move on to the technicality of the poetry. So as we said that it has been composed in shloks. So there are 24,000 shloks in Ramayana altogether. And what is the metrical composition of a shlok? So a shlok is basically arranged in 4 lines, 4 pads, and it has got 8 syllables each. So each pad is or each sentence, we can say, or each line is composed of 8 syllables. And then you can also reframe it as there are 2 half verses in each of the shloks, 2 half verses which consist of 16 syllables each. So either you say that the shlok has been composed, or the structure of the shlok is of 2 lines each of 16 syllables each, or 4 lines with 8 syllables each. So that is the whole structure of the shlok. Now this shlok is again one of the variants or one of the forms which was initially used in Veds also. In Ved it was called Anustam. So now it is a similar version of it. And as we all know that the 2 important mythological books are Ramayana and Mahabharata of the ancient times, and both are in the epic form, epic structure. So what is an epic? Epic is basically a long narrative poem which talks about the story of a hero and his endeavors and his adventures. So here in Ramayana we know the hero is Ram, and it is about his endeavors and his adventures. So when we are talking about the story of Ram and how Valmiki has framed Ram, he has never shown Ram as a god. He has always shown Ram as a man who was unique enough and who was infused with so much merit that he was called as he was given the term as Maryada Purushottam. Now you will find references of Ram as a god in the first canto and in the last canto, or in the first chapter or in the last chapter of the book. And why so? Because these 2 chapters are considered to be interpolations in Ramayana, and these 2 chapters are considered to be later on added in Ramayana. So initially they were not in Ramayana, original Valmiki Ramayana, it was added later on. Later on when Ram became an avatar of Vishnu as portrayed in Tulsidas' Ramcharitmanas. There Vishnu is an avatar of Ram. Ram is an avatar of Vishnu. But in Valmiki Ramayana, Ram is not an avatar but is basically a normal human being. Now when I talked about the first and the last chapters, so there are basically 7 chapters altogether in Ramayana. And out of these 7 chapters, of course the first chapter and the last chapter is thought to be later on added. And the last chapter is the most debatable, and that's why it is often said to be, because that chapter contains the Agni Pariksha of Sita. So that is always considered as the interpolation or the later on addition in Ramayana. Now the 7 chapters are named as this Balkand. You have the birth of the princess, when the princes are small and their as childhood relisses and memories are stored in Balkand. So, and of course it also talks about how Valmiki got the idea or the inspiration to write Ramayana and how he went on into the making of Ramayana. So that is your Balkand. Then you have your Ayodhya Kand. So it is basically about Ayodhya as a city and how Ramayana was going to be, how Ram was going to be coronated and was to become the next ruler of after Dashrath, his father. But we all know that he was sent into exile, and that's why after Ayodhya Kand we have Aranya Kand. So Aranya basically is jungle. So after that he goes to jungle. Then you have Kishkindha Kand. Kishkindha Kand is where he meets Sugriv in the jungle. Ram meets Sugriv. Sita has been abducted, and then he helps Sugriv in getting back his kingdom and killing his brother Bali. So after Kishkinda Kand, we move on to Sundar Kand. Sundar Kand is generally a relic in each and every household, Indian household, where people read it, and it is a devotional episode for devoted to Hanuman. So Sundarkand is again one of the important chapters in Ramayana. After Sundarkand, that is the fifth chapter, you have the Yuddha Kand or the Lanka Kand. So Yuddha Kand, it is mentioned in Ramayana, whereas it is named as Lanka Kand in Ramcharitmanas. So the sixth Kand is Yuddha Kand. So finally there Ram kills Ravan and Sita is freed from the abduction of Ravan and they return back home. In Ramayana, it is considered that after this there is no more chapters. So the last chapter, that is the seventh chapter, the Uttarkand, is thought to be an interpolation where there is this birth of Love Kush and Sita has been sent to exile, and Valmiki himself appears as a character there because Valmiki is the one in whose hermitage Sita takes refuge after she has been sent into exile, and where Love and Kush are born. And Love and Kush also become the narrators of this Ram Katha or Ramayana. That is, and that mention is in the first book also. So that's why just generally it is considered that the first book and the last book are the interpolations. So this is basically the whole gist of what is there in Ramayana, and how are the 7 chapters divided, how many shloks are there, in what age it was written. So generally it is around the 3rd century BC, long back that it is dated, and then it is one of the ancient epics from parallel with Mahabharata. So Ramayana and Mahabharata are 2 seminal works and books of Indian literature and heritage. And then there are 24,000 sloks, and you have Valmiki as a composer and a poet, and this is the basic summary of not we can say summary, this is the basic introduction of what is there in Ramayana. So in the later videos we'll come up with the various books, and in each book there are so many cantos, so many again sub chapters. So we will take up each and every canto one by one and try to complete the Ramayana in that form. So that is all for today. Thank you.